Well, it's happened, folks. Markey is here for another 2 years. We've heard a lot of rumors and noise about this for quite some time now. It's intensified in the past couple of days. And Jacob Markstrom will be a New Jersey Devil, obviously barring trade, injury, or anything of that nature, through the 27-28 season. We're going to talk all about it. Welcome back to I'm running with the Devils. We are talking New Jersey Devils hockey all year long. Please hit that subscribe button, smash the like, share with a friend. Thank you very much. And did you folks think you were going to go a day without your boy making an appearance? Oh, no, I was going to make an appearance anyway. We have a couple other things to talk about, but grabbing headline news, obviously the Jacob Markstrom extension fresh off of the press wire. About an hour, a little under an hour and a half ago, we see the release from the New Jersey Devils. Devils agree to terms with Jacob Markstrom. Netminder inks a 2-year deal. This is 8:30 p.m. The New Jersey Devils announced that the team has agreed to terms with goaltender Jacob Markstrom on a 2-year contract worth $12 million with an annual average value of $6 million. The announcement was made by President General Manager Tom Fitzgerald. And then they go on to give Markey's background. I will spare you reading all of that. But there it is, folks. Contract was up after the season. Jacob Markstrom has been re-signed by the organization 2 more years at $6 million per. And I will say this does not come as a surprise to me just because I'm a, where there's smoke, there's fire kind of guy, if you will. When you hear the chatter, you hear the noise, multiple people talking about it. Usually there is something to it. They've been talking about this for a while, and now the deal has been done. Markey is here for 2 more years, $6 million a year. And I do know that a lot of people are, reacting in different ways to this. And my honest opinion of it is that I do think it was obviously a little premature. Markey obviously has struggled this season, but I still do believe in him. I've maintained for a long time that when Markey is on, he is on, but we have not seen that Markey really this season thus far. It has worried a bunch of people, and a lot of people are going to be talking negatively, I guess, about the timing and perhaps the value of the contract. But a few days ago, there were rumors that he wanted around $5 million for 5 years. And I think that was pretty astonishing. Jake Allen did sign that 5-year deal this summer, 1.8 times 5 years. And while no one really expects him to play out the entire thing, it kind of shows where his head is at, that he'll probably stick around for as long as the organization will have him. But, and then to potentially sign Markey for 5 years would be, I don't know what you want to call it, but that would be an interesting kind of road to go down, having 2 guys locked up till they're, about 40, 41 years old as your tandem. But they are a win-now tandem. And like I've said, I do believe in Markey. And so the 5 years at $5 million did frighten me a bit. I thought that was not, something the Devils should embark on. 5 years is a long time, again, with Allen being signed for 5 years as well. And they upped the money a little bit to $6 million in 2 years. The window's open, guys. The time for this team to win is now. Both Markey and Allen are win now goaltenders. And from an organizational standpoint, to then have a pretty solid tandem. And despite Markey's struggles, again, I do believe in him. I do think he will settle down. I do think we have seen flashes of greatness from Markey, and hopefully he is able to kind of channel that and going forward, give us that level of play on a regular basis. I do believe that is going to happen. Obviously, I have my concerns like many of you. But to have the tandem we have with Markey now and Jake Allen locked up for, I guess Markey's only 2 more years after this. So you're talking about beyond this season, 2 more seasons of a Markey Allen tandem at a combined $7.8 million in the new cap era is very good. I have to go pull the numbers. Like, this just came out and I was doing some Halloween stuff and had to rush home and jump on here to talk about this with all of you. Obviously, got to do my duties and talk about this. This is a moment. But I do think $7.8 million for a pretty solid tandem for a win-now team, $7.8 million combined for a pretty good tandem, I would say, is very good, especially in the new cap era. $7.8 million combined was good in the old cap era. So I think from a positional standpoint, to have two goalies that are capable of carrying somewhat of a starter's load, or at least the current day starter's load, whether that's 50, 55 games, if need be, from that standpoint, I do think it's good. Now, everyone obviously has been on the Allen train as of late. He was very good for the Devils last year, signs that team-friendly deal. He's looked phenomenal this year. Should have gotten another win in Columbus that he, lost the win because Markey gave up the late goal. But I $7.8 million for both of these guys combined is pretty good. Now, again, do I think maybe the team could have used some more time? Maybe. But, then I started thinking about all these things like, perhaps, and I'm not saying this is the case, but this is just me spitballing and speculating. Is there a chance that this whole contract situation kind of looming over Markey during the season maybe has affected his play? I'm not saying that it has. I'm just, again, thinking out loud with this kind of in the background, and this has been going on for a while now. Could that have possibly been in his head and maybe affecting his play? I think maybe it could have been. Again, hypothesizing, not saying that it is the case. But knowing that, his future is secure now for the next 2 years, this deal is in place, there's nothing to worry about. Maybe just maybe, that alleviates a little pressure he may have been feeling, and maybe it causes him to settle down a little bit and go back to the dominant guy we saw for stretches last season. That's what I'm hoping. Again, pure conjecture, thinking out loud, but maybe there's something to that. And I'm hoping that tomorrow, when we see Markey back in there, he looks like his old self. Wouldn't that be something? I'm going to get to all your comments in a minute. We got a couple other things to go over. But Markey here, 2 more years, $6 million. Time will tell whether this was a smart signing or not. But again, for $7.8 million to have these two guys for the next 2 seasons after this, I'm not mad at it. Do I wish it was a little bit cheaper? Yes. Do I think it may have been a wise move to wait a little bit? Maybe. But on the flip side, if Markey does go back to his dominant self, and this is kind of, just kind of looking at it the other way, let's just say he goes on an amazing tear. The Devils, go on heaters regularly, and they're looking like a force going into the playoffs, and then he has a massive playoff. There is a chance that you could be in a situation where if he did not have the contract extension in place, he plays himself into a much higher payday for another team looking to win now. Someone like the Oilers, or I'm sure there's a couple other teams out there that would be interested if Markstrom was to become available. And so I do think there is that kind of element to it as well. There is a chance that if he did go back to his dominant ways, that he would be worth more money. Again, you got to remember, this is the new cap climate, not the old cap climate. I know a lot of people are thinking like $6 million, but with the cap jumping like this, it's not nearly what it seems. And everyone has to get used to these new numbers. And I think people are slowly going to come around on some of these contracts as you see more deals come out. We've seen, what did Logan Cooley just sign for, like 10.5 or 11 million? I mean, guys are getting paid. The new cap era, money is flowing, but we'll circle back on that. I'm going to get to all your comments in a minute, but we have to bring up the other piece of information coming out today, courtesy of Amanda Stein earlier or later in the afternoon. Connor Brown is questionable for Saturday at the moment. I mean, guys, you can't make this stuff up. It does not end with this club. The injuries just don't stop. Needed the day off today, says New Jersey Devils head coach Keefe, and they'll see tomorrow how he feels. Keefe says not to read too much into today's lines, as Brown's availability tomorrow will dictate what the makeup looks like. And so Connor Brown not practicing today, taking a maintenance day, or maybe recovering from some sort of injury or whatever he suffered in that last game in San Jose. It is unfortunate. It seems like every other game this team is losing guys. They were able to withstand the kind of early wave of injuries as they were more to depth players. But then we got hit with our first substantial one, and that's obviously Brett Pesce. As you've all seen the past couple games, Brett Pesce is a massive, massive player for this team, and the team does not look anywhere near the same without him. And obviously, we're talking mainly about defensively here. Guy eats pucks morning, noon, and night, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, block shots, just the steady, calming influence on the D, very responsible defensively, kills penalties, good at 5-on-5, and we are without him. And as a result, the pairs had to get switched up. We see a lot of kids on the blue line. I have talked about going back a long time now, months back, when everybody was looking to, or not everybody, I should say, not everybody, but a large portion of the fan base was salivating at the thought of trading Dougie Hamilton for forward help and kind of getting excited about the thought. And I defended Dougie and said, oh no, I want Dougie on this team He has immense value, and the defense will show a regression without him. And you've seen it with just Pesci. If Dougie was not here, I promise you guys right now, we would be living in a very scary time, because with Dougie here, with Dougie still in the lineup, you're talking about 3 children, guys. We have 3 children, and I love all of them. Love our kids. But you have a 22-year-old Luke Hughes still finding his way in this league, still very much developing, still nowhere near his prime or his full potential. I do think he's going to be an absolute phenom, stud defenseman when he blossoms into that role over the next couple seasons, but he still has a ways to go. Luke Hughes, 22 years old, and then a pair of 21-year-olds, my friends, in Seamus Casey and Shimo Nemitz. Love all these kids, by the way. Don't what I'm about to say, I want it to be interpreted properly. Love these kids. But as I said in the summer when people were talking about trading Dougie, having 3 kids like that on the blue line all at once is a lot to manage. It is a lot to manage. And you've seen the past couple of games where some, sequences, you're like, oh my God. And it's going to happen. Defensemen take a long time to develop, much longer than forwards. All of these kids have very high potential. All of them are pretty solid, in their own ways at the moment, but they still have plenty of growing to do. And when you have 3 of them on the blue line at once, it's a lot. Pesci and Kovacevic out. As I said earlier, I think on X when I was fighting a bunch of the Doomers. Follow me on X if you're not, by the way. Let me pull that up on there. I'm getting more involved on there, but it is a platform where there is a lot of nonsense, a lot of noise, a lot of negativity, and it does stress me out from time to time to deal with said behaviors from people on X. But follow your boy, running with NJD. I will drop the link in the chat right now as well. But a lot of people dooming on there. The sky is falling. This team's the same as last year, yada, yada, all this stuff. And I understand where the PTSD comes from, but people have to realize, like, number one, Dougie is a rock for this defense. Without Dougie right now, you're talking about, what are we even talking about, right? You're talking about a D-core that would have a 21-year-old in Nemitz, a 21-year-old in Casey, a 22-year-old in Luke Hughes, and then you'd have what? Siegenthaler, Dilly, and Chalowski maybe, with at least one guy playing his offside. I mean, this is not ideal whatsoever. And so I do think with the early, adversity with Pesci going down, I hope it was an eye-opener to all. That for all the people that were saying Nemitz, and this guy and Luke is taking over for Dougie, he's ready to step in. No, he's not. And that's okay. But Luke was never ready to just take the mantle from Dougie this season. For all the people that thought that, I'm so sorry that you were misguided. It's time to come around. Dougie Hamilton is extremely valuable to this club. Extremely. And without him at this very moment, this defense would be in complete shambles. Complete shambles with Pesci and Kovacevic out. And so I've kind of, that's kind of my vent for the evening on Dougie for now. And then obviously you see the offensive contributions as well. I can't talk about Dougie enough. I've told everybody how I feel about him, and it does feel nice for him to be vindicated, in my opinion, or to anyone who's, paying attention. The vindication has already happened between the offensive contributions, him becoming more sound defensively this season. And a lot of this might or could be attributed to Brad Shaw and some of the work he's done with the defense. Hopefully we get some more clarity on that, in due time. But Dougie Hamilton is huge to this team, and you're seeing it kind of play out in real time right now. And again, these injuries are horrible. This team just has to buckle down, and I would love to see them salvage this West Coast road trip and win the next 2. But so compounding off of what Amanda Stein tweeted earlier about Connor Brown, she says, changes indeed for NJ Devils, though we will have to see how things might change with Brown not on the ice today. Each forward line has been tweaked. A lot of us were looking to see kind of how that would play out. And if today is any indication, it looks like Chalowski will draw in with Nemitz, while Casey will be an extra tomorrow. And so there you have it. We look at the lines. We see a lot of tinkering, and it's looking like Casey will be sat in favor of Chalowski. And as a result, something I don't like doing, as I've talked about plenty of times as well, and the reason why I thought Casey would get the call first, is that we now have Luke Hughes playing on his offside. Again, very skilled kid. I think the world of Luke. I think he will, fill in admirably on the opposite side. But this is not ideal, obviously. This is happening as a necessity due to injury. And now the coaching staff is kind of, assessing the last couple games and seeing where they can make improvements. And we see a top line. We see a top line of Stefan Nason getting the bump with peanut butter and jelly. We see Nason with Jack Hughes and Jesper Bratt. Lots of people down on Palat. And again, I've defended Palat. I do like Palat. He does have value. I understand the production is underwhelming, especially playing with Jack and Bratter. People want to see some slightly flashier stats for him, and I get all of it. But the reality is, on Palat, he does have a value to the club, and he probably would not be discussed to the level that he is if he didn't get $6 million a year. It's unfortunate. He gets paid, makes you a target. That's kind of where I think a lot of people kind of came with some of the stuff about Dougie. And anytime in any sport, any team, when guys get paid a lot of money, they kind of have a bullseye on them from the fan base, whether it's trade talks or complaining about production of the team. You know, the mo money, mo problems. My man Biggie Smalls and at the time Puff Daddy sang about this so eloquently in the late 90s. Mo money, mo problems. And that kind of, you know, is the case with athletes as well. And so with Palat, $6 million a year, I get why he gets attacked. I do think he has value. It's unfortunate that the contract is what it is, but a lot of people wanted to see him off that top line. And just for now, again, this is all with Connor Brown, not at practice. So this could, and Keith even said, don't put too much stock into it. This could literally be just the most early preliminary tinkering we're going to see with the lineup. But it is interesting that Stefan Nason gets put with the big boys. Stefan Nason, come on down. You are playing with peanut butter and jelly, my friend, and let's see what he does. I like Nason, obviously. A bit heavier, edgier, more violent, good net front guy, has some feistiness, could muck it up in the corners. I am a fan of Nason. I have been kind of campaigning, I suppose, for my man Paul Cotter to get a full game with them, and I hope at some point we still see it. I love Paul Cotter. You guys know how I feel about Paul Cotter. I think that'd be an interesting experiment as well, as would Gritsuk. At this point, I kind of am at the point now that the heater is over and we have these injuries and all these things are happening. I would like to see a lot of experimenting. And for me, it would be kind of top down. I am excited to see Nason with Jack and Bratter. I would like to see Cotter get a look there. And I would also like to see Grits try to get a look with them as well, just to kind of see what that does to the rest of the lineup. But this is certainly interesting. Nason with Hughes and Bratter. And then we go to the second line, and now Palat just gets bumped down from the first to the second. And you have a line of Pally, Nico, and Grits. Somewhat interesting. Again, initial reaction to it, I do like Nico and Timo together. I do feel like that is a duo, just like Jack and Bratt, that should kind of be almost in cement as a duo, and then kind of find the complementary, the correct player or piece to be on that line with them. But now we're seeing Nico and Timo split up. This is interesting. Grits, again, I do think is a beast. I think he could play pretty much anywhere. And the second line of Pally, Nico, and Grits, that'll be interesting to keep an eye on, which makes your third line then Timo Meier, Lemico, and Dawson Mercer on the wing. Another interesting one for me. With the top three lines, I feel like there are so many options. With Mercer potentially at center or wing, and some of the other guys. But I initial reaction, I do like Timo and Nico together. We're going to see how they do apart here. Interesting top three lines. And then you have a fourth line of Cotter, Glendening, and Hallinan, which I think is also interesting. But I do like our forward group. You know, I was toying around with some lines earlier today. Maybe I'll share them later on in here after I get to some of your comments and we kind of discuss all these things that are happening here. But there are a lot of options. You know, like I've said, I would like to see Grits and Cotter with peanut butter and jelly at different points to see how that goes. But there's so many options, but this is certainly interesting. And again, this is heavily influenced by the fact that Connor Brown was not in the lineup. It's looking like Markey will indeed get the start tomorrow night in LA, looking to rebound from that really sad outing in Denver, which we're all still scarred by, obviously. And so, yeah, will be interesting to see. I did whip up some lines. Maybe I'll save that for after tomorrow at some point. But follow your boy on X. Like I said, I'm fighting the Doomers. Link in description. And now we get to you, the fine people. The fine New Jersey Devils fans who look to be pretty chatty tonight. Pretty chatty indeed. Lance says, I would have slow walked this one. Yeah, I totally get it. The Lou Lamoriello school of these types of things says if you have time, use it. But I understand. And I do think maybe this has something to do, like I said, with maybe it was just affecting him a little bit. And once it was behind him, they think he would, kind of respond and start playing better. Damien says he hopes this doesn't mess over Dawes. I do like Dawes. I would rather we keep him and Allen if we keep Markey too than cool, but I'm worried this will not be the case. Well, I mean, you kind of know where the team was at when earlier in the season, Nico Dawes was on waivers. Luckily, no one claimed him because we ended up needing him when Markey went down. And shout out to Nico Dawes. Again, I believed in him forever. He has shown flashes. Thus far, I do believe his New Jersey Devils career highlight or kind of shining moment, if you will, would be the Stadium Series victory over the Flyers at MetLife Stadium. Shout out to everybody that was at that game. What a phenomenal experience. And that was Nico Dawes in net for that one. But I do think he is capable. And I did not want to lose him on waivers. Luckily, he snuck through. No one claimed him. And a lot of teams after that Wild game were probably disappointed that they did not take a chance on him because he showed in that game that he is very capable. He had like 30 saves, I think. He looked great. And with all the injuries, 3 goalies is a nice luxury to have. You never know when someone's going to go down and you're going to need a guy like Dawes. Rico says, hopefully they didn't give him a no-move clause because that'll mess with us bad. I guess maybe they'll announce those details at some point. Or I guess at some point it will be reported, so we will find that out. That's an interesting kind of element. Frank says, curious timing. Ritter Engine doesn't like it and says, dumb. Lance, save percentage is worse than the league. Matthias, wholly overpay, unfortunately. Yeah, so the early comments here is a lot of negativity, and like I said, I do get it. But on the flip side, if Markey settles in and starts dominating, I think people will be happy about this. It's a chance the organization was comfortable with, and furthermore, I know people aren't going to want to hear this, but I do think Markey is a big-time locker room vibes, almost semi-coach kind of guy. And he seems like the kind of guy to me that could potentially stick around in the organization when his playing days are over. I always love to see it. Guys that, really embrace being a Devil and the organization in the area. And I could totally see both, I think, Markey and Jake Allen kind of doing that. And, transitioning to a front office role or something else with the team when they're done playing. But Markey, ultimate competitor, wants to win, wants the net. You got to respect it. And I understand the reservations from everybody, given the small sample size of his work on this season thus far. But I do think he is eventually going to settle down and look much better. Now, how much better? I don't know. I'm hoping for Vezina caliber. I hope he really gets to that level where you're like, whoa, this is the Markey we were all hoping to get when we traded for him. Andrew says, does this mean Yegorov is going to replace Dawes at Utica? Yegorov, you don't really know. He's at least going to finish up the season in college this year, and he very well may be back in college next year. You really never know. Maybe he does decide to go to Utica next season, and then that would give you kind of 3 goalies in the mix for Utica would be Yegorov, Jacob Malik, Nico Dawes. But these are all kind of down the line issues that will sort themselves out one way or another. But I wouldn't be surprised if maybe Yegorov goes back to BU for another season after this one. And we'll see. But I do think he is going to be one of the future guys for this organization for sure. Ritter Ender says Markey won't get as far in the playoffs. That's 100% certain. I'm not certain about that. He played pretty damn good in the playoffs last year. And I think a lot of people just get upset with sometimes what are perceived as like weak. Sometimes he gives up softies, but he also does make the crazy high danger saves where you're like, how did he ever save that? And hopefully we see a consistent top of his game Markstrom. But I certainly understand the people that have the concerns because there certainly has been things to be concerned about. But I think he's going to bounce back. I really do. And I hope it starts tomorrow in LA. Maria says that was fast. Frank, Devils got confused, thought it was April Fool's, not Halloween. Dubs is like, it's good. 2 good vet goalies locked up for 2 years and under $8 million AAV for the pair. At that point, Big Mike is ready to enter the fold. Very well could be. And I said that earlier in the program here. $7.8 million for a true win now tandem is very good, especially in the new cap era. That is very cheap. There's tons, there's several goalies making that or more for just themselves with backups, getting paid. What did Stolarz just sign for? I thought he was a pretty good deal too. Yeah. Stolarz just signed 4 years for $15 million, 3.75 AAV in Toronto. Jersey boy who got victimized by this Devils club in Toronto last week. Michael says terrible loss last night. Yes, it was. Fentanyl Floyd, he'll still have some good games, but his best days are behind him, I feel. That very well could be the case. But we don't necessarily, again, when healthy, at 100% or closer to 100% than this Devils team is right now, they may not need Markstrom's quote-unquote best days to go far in the playoffs or win a cup. I do believe in this team that much. When healthy, you saw it during the 8-game heater. Before Pesci went down, not every game was dominant. Several of them were dominant performances by the Devils, but good teams and great teams find ways to win, sometimes kind of ugly, and the Devils were doing that amidst the 8-game win streak as well. Hater Tot says, glad you have faith in Markey. Sadly, I lack faith. Maria says, let's hope he returns to form soon. Ryan Demand, I think Markey is still a great goal. Just had some bad luck so far this season. Certainly hope so. Certainly hope so. And he says, I think he will bounce back. Hater Tot says, what form? He barely broke 900 last year. Frank, this is a clear indicator to me that Fitz intends to go all in the season when the time comes. Just my opinion. I do agree with that. I do think that within the organization, I do think the switch has kind of flipped to kind of where I have been for the past couple of years. I know many of you. I do think the organization, for a variety of reasons, I'm not going to get into all of them right now, but this would be amongst them, Frank, that it does seem that organizationally the switch has flipped to where the organization now does believe the window is open and the time to win is now. And we've kind of heard that. And so that is exciting because, to your point, I do think we see this team get a piece or two at the deadline because the window is wide open and these guys are not getting any younger. As we've all talked about, they're not kids anymore. Nico and Brad are in their 9th seasons. Jack in his 7th. We brought some other vets in. Obviously, Dodonov's still been injured, but a crafty vet, Connor Brown. We have pieces. Timo and Brad are, getting older. And so the time to win is now. And hopefully the organization makes win now moves as we get close to the deadline and for the next couple seasons. And I've talked about it. I have no interest in personally drafting with 1st and 2nd round picks. Trade them all away. Trade them all away for win now pieces and get this team over the hump. Noel says they signed Markey. Super glad I got his number on my jersey. Very nice. He was signed today, 2 years, $12 million. Ryan Demand and Markey, we trust. Brandon says, I like the signing, but I think we overpaid. Again, this is the new cap era. The dollars are significantly different than they were, a few months back. And I think, again, at $7.8 million for the two of them, would I have used a little more time? Probably. But this may have become a big distraction for Markey. And who knows? Like I said, maybe this was weighing on his mind. We'll never know. But I certainly would love to see him now with this fresh deal in place come out and just play lights out tomorrow in LA and get a big New Jersey Devils win to snap this little skid we're on here. Markey and Allen for the long haul. Brandon, at the same time, we should have just used Dawes. We need the money. I understand that kind of train of thought as well. Fentanyl, Floyd, poor Dawes. I talked about Dawes a lot over the past few months. I was convinced because of all the interest in Jake Allen that was being reported and what some teams were willingly going to offer him in free agency this past summer, I fully thought the tandem for this season was going to be Markey and Nico Dawes, and I was certainly happy with it. More than happy with Markey and Nico Dawes. Army says, pretty much always wish a deal was cheaper. Yeah, that ain't that the truth, right? But the term is amazing. With the cap going up, it's a great deal. Look at the goalie market, slim pickings. Exactly. What a proud dad he sounds like. I like young, promising defensemen for sure. And we have several of them on this team, but having all three in the lineup at once is a little more anxiety than I really want to have within a given game. Neil, $6 million probably almost choked while eating at Olive Garden. It's not that serious, Neil. Rob says Dawes will never get an opportunity, and that very well may be the case. Maybe the team does include him in a trade at some point. Maybe he's packaged up with picks or other players for one of those pieces that everyone wants to see help bolster this lineup. It does seem like at a minimum, you're going to have Markey and Allen for the next 2 years after this. So you're talking about 26, 27. Yeah, maybe a 28, 29 New Jersey Devils opening for Dawes. I don't know. Chris says the deal makes no sense. Why not wait until Markstrom shows he can still cut it? His stock is at an all-time low, and we signed him for $6 million. Yeah, but I do think, again, on the flip side, you could get in a situation where he ends up, maybe a desperate team, if he does go on a tear or as a big playoff or a combination of both, ends up finding a team that's like, you know what, we will take a shot on this guy. We need goaltending. Maybe we do offer him, $5 million times 4 years or $4.5 million times 5 years. I do think teams that are desperate to win now, and the Oilers could always be one of them, in my opinion, might offer that money and make it hard for the Devils to retain him. I do think it was a calculated risk of sorts. Neil says, I'm with you on Dougie. Oh, I love Dougie. Rico, who's going to go on IR to bring Kovacevic back if he's ready? We are over the cap. Next year will be in. Yeah, we don't know. There'll probably be more injuries. That's, again, a down-the-line problem. Something's going to have to give when Kovacevic comes back. And, again, hopefully it's not more injuries, but nothing would surprise me at this point with this team because we learned today that Connor Brown might not be playing in the next game. Blackatron says, I fell to my knees in Walmart. Indefinite Rage, Dougie looks good so far this season. Helps when everyone else is struggling, for sure. Y'all are soft says, Luke better come around. These lines are terrible. Again, Luke, 22 years old, super young. Sky is the limit. He is going to continue to get better. Critter Chronicles, not happy with the term. Says 2 years is a disgrace. Indefinite Rage, I shut the game off at first intermission last night, but Luke looked slow the last 2 games, like almost lazy. Nah, I mean, listen. Still 22 years old, guys. You have to understand. And I know that, again, when it comes to money, he signed that big contract after the drama, and so that sort of put a little bullseye on him as well with many people. It's a process. You might not see the prime Luke Hughes for a couple more years, but at that point, I do think he is going to be lethal, and the $9 million is going to be a very, very team-friendly deal. But it might not be this year. It is what it is. Rob said, I like the new lines more than the lines the Devils used the last 2 games. Blackatron, I'm happy with the term. Unhappy with the number. 4.5 would have been the sweet spot. I think 4.5 in the new cap climate, though, is dreaming, Blackatron. I will say, if you kind of reverse engineer it, the $6 million in today's cap world is pretty close, I think, to the 4.5 million, before the cap went up. And so, maybe that'll help you sleep better at night. But $6 million in the new world is not crazy. And especially when Allen signed up for 1.8. Ryan the Man says, Critter is definitely a doomer. Brandon, what's going on? If they're going to throw Meyer on the third line, at least put him on the right wing. Again, they could just be, much ado about nothing lines because Connor Brown was not there. So it will be interesting to see when the game comes around, if any of those lines are still intact or if everything gets shifted, if he does play. And hopefully he does. I mean, losing Connor Brown would be such a tease. Like, we finally got a nice new toy and then injured a couple weeks into the season. It's brutal. 2000 Devils says Pally needs to keep moving down. He's almost invisible. Rob, Cotter, Mercer, Meyer, something I want to see. I would definitely enjoy that line. That's an interesting one. Cotter with Mercer at center and Timo. I do like Timo and Nico together. I'm curious to see what comes of all this. And again, was this something that's solely because Connor Brown wasn't there, or are they going to tinker with some of this? But I'm down to try anything. I do like experimenting with lines and see what works. I mean, you might as well do it now while we have some of these injuries. Brandon, it's really good to make these big changes to the lineup. It's a lot harder to play against teams. Harder to play against. Teams won't know how to coach against it for a while. And I think that's a little bit of the method to the madness with the power play 1 units as well. The PK doesn't necessarily know what's going to be thrown at them, so they kind of have to strategize and game plan for a couple different looks. Anson says, horrible line changes minus the Nason bump. Critter, Lemico is worse than Yager at 54 years old. I mean, that's not get crazy, but shout out to Jaromir Yager. What an absolute legend of the game. Guy owns a team over there, and he's still playing at 54. Beast. Indefinite Rage, is there something in Pally's contract that makes him stay in the top 6 because he doesn't belong up there with our firepower? No, there's definitely nothing in his contract, but he is a familiar face with Jack and Bratter. I know people are tired of hearing it, but Pally does do things away from the puck to free up Jack and Brat to play their game and do what they do and cause damage. And Jack, I think it was after the Toronto game, himself said, Pally does things to free up me. Basically just that. He does things to help me and Bratter that you might not realize. And on that particular game, he was talking about a moment where Palat screened the goalie, was like right up in his face in the crease, and it directly led to a Jack goal. And now, while Pally did not get an assist on the score sheet, Jack Hughes himself told you the goal does not happen without Pally making that play. And so there is something to be said for that. Now, again, I think he's a target because he gets paid the $6 million. I get it. All of you people are bloodthirsty. But he does have value to the club. It's just not what he's getting paid. We're going to see how he does, whatever line he ultimately ends up on. And in the end, it very well may be right back up on the top line with Jack and Bratter. Travelin says Markstrom didn't go team-friendly like Allen. Frank, I don't foresee much production from Timo on that line. Army, I think Nason will fit in great on the top line, but Timo and Grits need to swap. Again, with this forward group, there is a lot of options. There are a lot of options. I'm curious to see as many as possible. Last night at points of the game, forgot to mention, and we've seen it on different plays with icings and things where Keefe tries to take advantage. There are moments where, I forget what game it was, and it happens a lot. One of the home games, it may have been the Avs, on an icing when the Avs iced it and they were out there with tired legs. Keefe threw out, I think it was Jack with Bratter and Timo. And then last night, and again, I was doing some other things and it wasn't like hawking for this because it happens quick sometimes when you miss it. But last night, I think we saw Nico with Brat and Jack. So situationally, you will see Keefe kind of go after other teams with like a really explosive combination of players. And I'm curious to see how that kind of plays out over the next couple games with some of these potential new lines that we're looking at. Lance says, combinations aside, this team needs to start games on time. Playing from behind is not a recipe for success. Absolutely. Giving up early leads and having to chase is never ideal. Never ideal. In the last couple of games, the Devils have found themselves in that position. Hopefully, tomorrow, I'm hoping Markey's dialed in. I hope we could get an early lead and then cause the Kings to chase because it sucks to have to chase from behind. Sir, Markey's number of the last few years do not justify the value. Critter Chronicles locker room vibes. I care about who's going to win hockey games. Well, hopefully, Markey wins some Critter Chronicles. You clearly are amongst the most outraged about this deal, and hopefully he proves it to be a good deal in time. Markey and Brandon Markey's biggest weakness is one-timers. Yeah, a lot of goalies get beat with one-timers, and we've seen a couple of them this year for sure. In that Avalanche game, there was a couple nice blasts. Gabagool says, I get that it's not the best timing for people, but Markey is going to bounce back. And I think that's what we're all hoping to see. And hopefully it starts tomorrow. But I understand some people's worry. Slurp, Markey's on the downside of his career. How do you justify the extension when he can't handle the workload? Well, we don't really know if he can. He had that unfortunate injury last year. He did have that little minor injury this year. When Markey's in the zone, he's in the zone. But we need it to happen now. Now that this is behind him, he has the deal. I hope that we see dominant Markey. Alan says, Ace, plain and simple, this organization sucks at getting really good players. They just will not spend money, and it's sad. Well, who do you want them to get, Alan? Who are you talking about specifically? Everyone knew what the cap space was kind of going into the summer, and that's why I accurately predicted, going back to last season, that I said for everyone looking for this big splashy addition this summer, you're going to be disappointed because you're going to get a couple bottom six pieces and a Luke extension. And that's exactly what we got. A couple bottom six pieces and Luke extension. And depending on where Dodonov plays when he comes back, it was a by process of pushing guys down, an upgrade to the bottom six. Maybe Dodonov plays in the top six. Maybe he doesn't. But in the end, that's pretty much what I was expecting for the summer. And that is how it played out. Phil says, I'm drunk. What happened? We signed Markey. 2 years, $12 million. 2 years, $12 million doll hairs. Ryan, I read that Dodonov should be back sometime in November, so we'll probably get him back soon. Yeah, going to be interesting where they put him in. And again, you need the depth, guys. Decimated by injuries. McEwen out. Nason just returned. Now Connor Brown could be hurt. I mean, it's just completely psychotic, the amount of injuries that this team has had to withstand already this season, on top of all the injuries we've had for the past couple seasons. Next man up. Garrett says, Markey haters in shambles when Allen gets blasted by the Sharks and Markey gets the $12 million extension. D. Lish, just tuning in. I love Markstrom last season. I know he's been shaky with that little we've seen him so far, and Allen's the man too, but I think Markstrom is going to come back full strength. Hopefully. Hopefully, Alex, go back and rewatch it. I missed the beginning of the stream. Thoughts on the contract. I'm going to start the whole thing over, Alex. There's many layers to it. Rewatch the beginning. Critter. Brandon, he's already fell off last year. He was horrible, and this year he's the worst goalie in the league. Yeah, at the moment on, 5 starts? I mean, why don't you save some of that venom for, let's give it a couple more months. Let's reassess everything on January 1st, shall we? Rico, we lost too many young goalies as of late. If we drop Dawes, we better bring in a young prospect goalie. I mean, what goalies did we lose? You're talking about, we did lose, my boy Poulter went to Winnipeg. but we still have Yegorov at BU, Malik, and Dawes and Utica. I mean, there's plenty of guys. Delish, as last people on Reddit at least were saying Markstrom was carrying the team at the end. Now they're blaming him. Leave Markstrom alone. Well, it's just the nature of the fan base. It seems to be super negative as of late. I mean, for a team that was on an 8-game winning streak, some of the people coming out of the woodwork amidst these 2 bad games in California are interesting to me. Just the doomers are out in full force. Anson, so the wing acquisitions talked about most are Tuck, Kyrou, McCann, Thompson. Yeah, I mean, listen, these are dreams. Any one of those guys come, it would be just. I do think Tage Thompson is in maybe the realm of completely absurd. The other ones I could potentially see, but again, a lot of assets would have to be shipped out to get these guys, and a lot of salary would have to go out as well. But I'd be interested in any one of those guys added to the Devils, assuming you're not trading a big piece going the other way and you're trading more of younger guys and futures, I think would make the team exponentially better. Frank, injuries and 2 bad losses aside, I'm super pumped about this team, though these past few days have maybe pumped the brakes just a tad. Yeah, I mean, I get it. But this is not a team at full strength. Lots of guys out, and none of them bigger than Pesci. Alan, just my opinion. I hope I'm 100% wrong. We are not going anywhere for a while. I just do not see it with some of these players we have in our lineup. I mean, that's your prerogative, Alan. I could not disagree with you more. And I do think that this team at close to full health is very dangerous, as we saw in the 8-game heater. And with some improvements or a key improvement at the deadline, I think they could be even better. Slurp, without a consistent blue line, would you not have the talent in net to overcome the shortfalls in age? I mean, Allen's been pretty damn good this season. What is now everyone down on Allen because of last night too? I forgot how much the fan base overall lives like in the exact moment. Like this game today, this last shift, this last goal. After an 8-game heater, a couple stinkers in California readjusting to injuries, and it's like the sky is falling. It is wild to me. Who wouldn't have signed up for 8 and 3? Woodson, there's zero excuse for Fitz not waiting for Markey to earn the extension. Worst signing since Plot, but we won't win the cup. Thank you for your positivity, Woodson. Robbie's bench boss says not horrible, not excited either, just meh. Woodson says Fitz just wiped out any good he did over the summer. Unbelievable. I disagree with that. How is the good wiped out? Keeping up with the Devils, the ceiling is great, but the floor is atrocious. I think that could be fair. The top of the mountain looks really good, and the fallout could be very ugly. I think that is a fair thing. But again, this is just like with giving Luke the $9 million on a long-term deal. I think that with all of these types of maneuvers and contracts, there is a built-in level of risk, and it's a calculated gamble for every GM signing anyone. There's a level of gamble to all of it, and you have to have it. They believe in Markstrom. The staff believes in him. I know Marty's super high on him. And so hopefully it all works out, but I know Marty is very high on Markey. Justin, Markstrom extension, well-deserved. Rich says, Ace, I feel Dodonov is not going to work out. What does your intuition think? I haven't seen enough to really have an opinion. I hope he could come into the lineup, slot somewhere well, and help this team out. I haven't seen enough to really have a strong opinion either way, if I'm being honest. Husky Unchained would really like to see LeChance over Hallinan. I do like Hallinan a lot. He's a guy that I've talked about even last year that I thought should have got maybe more of a look. But I'm obviously a super LeChance enthusiast as well and would like to see him get a look at some point in the not-too-distant future. I know people have been pointing to, his Utica numbers and all of this, but as I've explained before, I don't put that much stock. You have to obviously put some stock into it, but I am not going to make an assumption or whatever you want to call it off of someone's numbers in the AHL. Like we've seen guys have done great in the AHL and then not translate in the NHL. And on the flip side, we've seen guys in the AHL that weren't that impressive. And then they come to the NHL and you're like, whoa, what do we have here? And so I personally have seen enough, again, with LeChance. He looked great to me at development camp. I saw him there. He scored a goal in the scrimmage game at the end. I thought he looked really good, was physically involved, getting to the corners. We know he has great hands. He looked amazing in the Prospects Challenge, those couple games. before he got injured in Buffalo in the summer before big training camp. And then he had another goal in NHL preseason. And so every time I saw him, July was development camp. The prospects camp, I think, was early September. And then mid-September in the whatever preseason game he played in, he's looked good to me. And I think he could be a nice bottom six piece of this team. I hope we see him soon. Damien says, I will say I'm pissed Brown is out because he's producing good points on my fantasy team. Yeah, what a good pickup he was. Big Cheese Make Me says 11 games played. We are 8-3 and fans are already throwing in the towel. Devs fans are funny. Oh, they certainly are funny. Some of the things I've seen over the past 24 or so hours are downright just ridiculous. I mean, some of these people seemed like they thought, they were going to win 80 games, 81 games. I mean, we had an 8-game winning streak, guys. There's going to be some peaks and valleys. There's going to be some dips. It's not just going to be straight wins all the time. And again, not to make excuses, Pesci's a massive loss. It is a massive loss. Rico says we are leaving them out to dry. Both goalies are good. Just need players that won't get injured. I mean, but it's like the injuries are just they're here. They're never going away. Justin says Markstrom is still one of the best goalies in the league. Traveling, I'm not too excited about the news. Like you said, we'll have to reevaluate later this season. I'm not going to melt down over this as a gamble, though. Yeah, this was a calculated gamble, and we will see how it plays out. Obviously, you should be hoping for the best. Garrett, why didn't Fitz just sign all the superstars who don't get injured or have bad games ever and can win cups every year? Yeah, right, Garrett? Yeah, where are all these guys that are injury, bulletproof from injury and win cups every single season? I'd love to see where those guys are. Woodson, we are one key top six injury away from being a non-playoff team. That $6 million should be used for another top six player. We've only been crying for a winger to play with Jack for 3 years now. No, I that's still high on my list, but you got to have the goalies in place, and I get it, Woodson. The big winger for Jack and Bratter is always at the top of my list. I do think if we found the right guy, that line could really take it to the next level, but who knows what's in store down the line. For now, they're fortifying the goaltending. Give me Grits, Hughes, Bratt, top line, says Indefinite Rage. I would like to see it experimented with at some point. I have expressed my concerns about what that would potentially do to the bottom six. I do think having Grits in that bottom six may be the best way to make sure that bottom six is producing regularly. And I do think with Grits in that or on that third line does keep the balanced scoring that we're hoping to get. And I do fear if he's moved into the top six that the bottom six kind of falls off a cliff, but I'm down to experiment. I like to see experimentation. And I do think at some point you probably will see Grits tested out with them one way or another. Frank said, I said it last night during the power play goal. I firmly believe the brain trust knows what they're doing and they will figure out how to get things right. Let them do their thing. That's kind of where I'm at. There has been things done or not done in the past that certainly have aggravated me. This Markstrom contract certainly will not be one of them. I hope it all works out. That's all we could do. Woodson says Markey is not a 36-year-old brodeur. Well, I mean, who is Woodson? Keeping up with the Devils, Garrett, there's always assumption of risk, just the way sports are, and certain players aren't necessarily less likely to get hurt. Robbie's bench boss for giving Leafs and Nucks fans a run for their money on the most neurotic title. Yeah, maybe. Alex, might be obvious, but I think the main cause of the dooming is because two of the losses were back-to-back. Yeah, of course, but, new D pairings on the road after an 8-game winning streak, it's not always going to be pretty. I'm not happy with the losses either, but I certainly have not done a 360 like many people have and been like, oh, it's the same old story as last year. It's really not. I mean, the same old story in terms of injuries decimating the team, sure. But for, the team hadn't won 4 games in a row in nearly 3 calendar years, and we ripped off an 8-gamer already on the young season. Woodson says Luke is making $9 million. If he's that elite, he shouldn't need Pesci to babysit him. 22 years old, Woodson. 22. Give it some time. Keeping up with the Devils, Quinn Hughes better take a team-friendly contract in 2027, sub $5 million. Oh, that's seriously not going to happen. Team-friendly for him might even be considered like $12 million. But we'll see. Traveling Devil, the $9 million is 7 years long. Luke is still young and dumb, kind of. I think everyone expects him to mature in his contract to age well, age good. No, it will. I'm pretty sure in a couple years from now, everyone will say, damn, that Luke contract is really nice. On the open market, he's worth 11 or 12 million bucks. Man, the negativity, though, is at an all-time high, I have to say. I guess the timing of this coming off of the back-to-back losses kind of plays a part in it. I'm assuming, of the extreme negativity, but it's been brutal out there. I have to say, like I said, X is really frightening, and we have our fair share of negativity in here as well. And I understand some of the roots of it, but Delicious, let me help. Power bottom 6 right here. Alan, why is Plot on the top line? Seriously, am I missing something? I really do not understand why they will not put Nason or Cotter there. Well, Nason was there in practice today. Again, with Connor Brown absent. Could look different when he's back. Big Cheese Make Me says, Woodson is a troll, don't feed him. Y'all are soft says, Woodson tells the truth. Always has. Traveling, the fan base is, what have you done for me lately? You're not kidding, Traveling. And by what have you done for me lately means like the prior shift. Or maybe if we're going far back, lately would be earlier in the game. It really is crazy how everyone is so in the exact moment. Everyone, or at least a lot of people, feeling really good during the 8-game heater. And then a couple ugly losses bring the people that were in the shadows, that were just waiting for a little hiccup to be like, I told you so. The worst type of fans, in my opinion. Just like almost rooting for struggle to pound their chests and say how right they were. It is painful. Blackatron says, I'm negative about Palat. I deposited my apologies for everyone else that I was ready to do so far. I mean, that's fair. You're entitled to that. But I'm still waiting on a lot of apologies from people on Timo Meyer, Dawson Mercer, and Dougie Hamilton. All three. A lot of deposits are owed in the comments. Keeping up the Devils, 8 wins, tied for first in the NHL. 2 bad games. This team is suddenly garbage, but that is just NJ Devils fans' muscle memory. It's crazy, right? I'm sure I'm not the only one who's witnessed some of this stuff. It just 2 bad games erases what was an amazing start to the season with a pretty tough schedule, in which when the schedule came out, people were talking about how we were going to win 3 and 4 games in the month of October. And here we are at 8 and 3 through the month of October. Everyone here would have signed up for that. And if you say otherwise, you're a liar. You're an absolute liar. 8 and 3 is a pretty good record, all things considered. And I understand losing 2 in a row is going to put a slight damper on things. But no one would have predicted the Devils to do this. And so it's hard to really comprehend, how quickly, with the win, the people just, it all goes out the window. Frank says 13 goals against in 2 games. It's tough to stay positive, especially for people who've sat on the sidelines and never actually played. Relax, folks. This will pass. Long season. It's 2 games. 2 games. Travelin says lately is puck drop, and they better win the first face-off. Blackatron, I've been riding Palat, though, on this channel since I started watching. At least you're consistent. Indefinite Rage. The fact people are complaining about our goalie situation like they forgot what a real goalie issue was just 2 short seasons ago. Yeah, and to your point, Indefinite Rage, maybe this could be slight, very slight overreaction or overcompensation by Fitz. But in the end, after Corey Schneider, it cannot be stressed enough how the goaltending was never solidly addressed, and that for years and years we had a just constant rotation of journeyman goalies and career minor league guys, and no one ever came in and really settled that position. And for the first time in years, the Markey Allen tandem was solidified goaltending. And so I do think that while it took a long time for the Devils to get there, Fitz wanted to make sure that we did not lose that for the foreseeable future while this team is truly in win now mode with that window wide open. This is a win now organization, and that's a win now tandem. Chris is not happy with the extension. Robbie's bench boss Doomers have been jonesing to complain. Y'all are soft. Red Wings and Penguins also have good records. Who's to say this means anything? What does that mean? All we could talk about is where we are right now. Woodson 8-3, but our team looks like we've been through war with injuries. Same soft team as last year. I would like to see them get a little tougher, but in the end, it is not the same team as last year. Maybe in that department of it's mostly the same personnel, but I think they're mentally at least a little bit tougher. Connor Brown, I think, is a dog, and I think it's going to be infectious on some of these other guys. And I absolutely love Grits. Can't say enough about Grits. Traveling says the wings and pens not legitimately good. I think that's what this person is trying to allude to. Indefinite rage, not to mention most of our wins were at home. When has that happened in recent years? Well, I mean, we won all of our games through the first 9 except the first one. They won on the road in Tampa. They won on the road in Columbus. Then they came home and beat Florida, Edmonton, Minnesota, Toronto on the road, Wild at home. Up until this road trip, they were winning everywhere except for Carolina. Woodson says Ace will be pissed when we are forced to trade Dougie at the deadline to get under the cap. If that happens, I will be pissed. I will be pissed. I think that would be a massive, massive mistake. I understand Dougie's not going to be here forever, but I do think trading him this season would be a grave, grave error. And I think anyone who's on the fence, again, if you have eyes and common sense, if you're seeing what the defense has looked like over the past couple of days with Pesce and Kovacevic out, a world where Dougie's not here right now is very scary. Completely scary. Woodson says Dougie, Mercer, and Nemitz all gone. What a disaster. I don't want Mercer traded either. I think Mercer being dealt would also be a massive mistake. Roman Checkmonic says, I'm personally not a full doomer. I'm on Fitz's ass to make a contender. I mean, I could live with that. The one common thing most of us, or at least I think most of us have here, is that we are Devils fans and we want this team to win. Now, some of us go off the rails and have different interpretations of what that looks like, or your own kind of personal, I don't know what you want to call it, belief systems or thoughts. But we all want this team to be good, and we all are desperate to see it happen sooner than later. And I think where we are right now, you have to just sit back and smell the flowers a little bit, because at 8-3 through the month of October, I certainly would not have predicted that good of a record for this team, and I know all of you would not have either. And so when you zoom out just a little bit, this has been a good start with overall a past 2 games that were problematic. Y'all are soft. The first bout of adversity, the Devils sink. That's why their fans doom themselves. Chris Slater says Dougie is amazing. It'd be a huge error trading him. I'd trade Luke before Dougie. They're not trading Luke, obviously. Woodson, if we get healthy, we have to trade someone with a substantial cap. Justin Ace, can you tell me how long Fitz has to clear up cap space, and who do you think gets moved to clear cap space up? Well, it all depends when Kovacevic comes back, and now with all these other injuries, we're accruing cap space, and so I'd have to take take a look at it, because I think Glass might be on IR. Pesce might get put there at some point, and so with all these injuries, current cap space is 612. Yeah, it's just way too soon to know. Pesce officially listed as week to week, but that could be, 4 to 6 weeks. Zach McEwen could be the same thing. Glass is listed day to day. I don't know what's that. Dodonov is LTIR day to day. Yeah, Dodonov is on LTIR, as is McEwen and Kovacevic. Cody Glass is on IR. Yeah, they're going to have to do something. But if more injuries occur, there's a chance that they don't have to. D-Lish says, my Markstrom bobblehead is hearing all of this, guys. He's hurt by your comments. Shame. Completely agree. Jason, the season needs a few more weeks to really settle. Once it does, I think we'll see that the Devils are the team from last year, a little improved, hopefully a little more durable. Yeah, but this injury bug that refuses to go away is really unfortunate. It's one of the craziest things I've ever seen. And now Connor Brown might be out tomorrow. I mean, it just doesn't end. Jason, no, this is where you wish they had gotten a 3C or a top 6 winger. Yeah, absolutely. I wanted a 3C as well. And I do think if the offense, well, it's not even nearly the offense. It's just that the team overall does not look good tomorrow with Lemico as a 3C, then I would probably put Dawson Mercer back to 3C and play with the lines from there. I think I probably would have even for the Kings game, just because, you know, Mercer looked decent there for a couple games after he got moved when Glass got hurt. But I also really liked Mercer with Nico and Timo. They looked really good as a line. I thought that could be a line that we see long-term and into the playoffs. And I forget who else I was talking about with this at some point, but I also would like to see for at least a game, I would like to see Dawson Mercer with peanut butter and jelly. I think that could be super interesting. I would like to see that at some point. What is this? Lines 5. I was messing around earlier today with some lines and things. And this was before. I thought this would be an interesting package for a game. You got Mercer with peanut butter and jelly, Dawson, Jack, Jesper, and then a second line that we've already seen before. Timo Meyer, Nico Hischier, Grits. A third line of Palat, Lamico, Connor Brown, and then a fourth line of Cotter, Glendening, Stefan Nason. And I do think in this one, I do like these top two a lot, obviously. Would like to see the Dawson Mercer experiment. But then in the bottom 6, you even have swappable pieces like, you know, Palat really could go to the fourth and maybe put Cotter where I have Palat on here. So then it's like Cotter, Lamico, Connor Brown, or even they had Nason on left wing. So maybe even swap Nason to left wing and have something like Nason, Brown, Lamico, or maybe even audition. There's so many options. If they ever put Paul Cotter back at center, that could be interesting. But yeah, I would like to see Dawson with the big dogs, at least for a game. I do think it is interesting. I would like to see it. And I would like to see, like I mentioned earlier in this whole thing, I would like to see Grits with them, and I would like to see Paul Cotter for a full game. We've seen little clips of Paulie Cotter with peanut butter and jelly, but I'd like to see it for a full game at some point. I'm scanning here. Jason, the season needs a few more weeks to settle. Once it does, I think we'll see the Devils. Oh, yeah, I just read this before. I completely agree. It is a better team. Woodson, my dream trade, Luke and Jack. Oh, my God. For Tuck and Tage, heavier, edgier, more violent, instant cup contenders. Just completely ridiculous suggestion, Woodson. Frank, start a new month, turn the page, and the grind continues. Yeah. Y'all are soft says LA hasn't won at home yet. Just so everyone is aware for tomorrow, I believe the Sharks had not won at home until last night as well. And so I will not put any stock into that. As I've said for the past however long I've had this channel, there are no guaranteed wins in this league, guys. Every team has good players. This is the best league in the world. There's no gimme wins, and the Kings will be looking to win the game and secure 2 points for themselves. Jason, I was in favor of trading Dougie, but I was completely wrong. Luke doesn't look at all ready to take over that top spot. No shit, Jay Snow. And no offense to anybody who thought that, but it's, you know, I've been watching this team in the sport for a long time, guys. To assume that a 22-year-old kid is going to pick up for a very good veteran defenseman who has played, you know, quarterbacking power plays probably since he was a wee little lad and a veteran in this league. If you think a 22-year-old is just going to just assume those roles seamlessly and there's not going to be any kind of blowback, it's psychotic, guys. It always was psychotic, which is why I was always defending my man Dougie. Dire Wolf, I like the move. We have 2 solid goalies locked up for under 8 and flexibility in 2 years when a young guy is ready. Yeah, I think that's pretty much what we're looking at here. A veteran win now tandem for the next 2 years. Hope for the best for everybody, and we try to push and win a cup. Paha says, just heard the news. I'd rather haven't. Almost recovered from the last 2 games. Ryan Demand, Cody Glass should be coming very soon. I read that his estimated return date is November 6th as of right now. I would love to see that because that third line was humming with him. With him centering Grits and Connor Brown, that was probably one of the better third lines the Devils have seen in a while. Chris, we need another top winger. Luke needs more time to develop. Jason, no, I've been disappointed with Luke so far. He really needs to take a step forward this year. It's, again, we've played 11 games, guys. Give it some time. Give it some time. My man, Brian, what's up? Ace, thanks for staying up for the late night games and giving us an impeccable recap to watch the next morning. Thank you for watching, sir. Last night's was super painful because of, obviously, the ridiculously late or early time involved with a painful performance on the ice. And so those ones are extra hard to get through after the game, and especially with a lot of the negativity that seems to surface after such performances. But I will always be here. Great game or bad game and everything in between. We will be live talking about it. Ryan the man, we might get Cody Glass back for the home game against the Habs next Thursday. Yeah, I can't wait till this team gets back home. One, because I just miss going to the games, obviously. But we started to really, it seemed like they were finding, they were getting closer to the top of their game at the Rock. Jason O'Keefe said Luke's not ready to be on his own. They had to put him with a vet. That's not what you want in your third year. Dude, he's 22, though. I mean, let's be real. Let's be real. I think people are having I don't know what you want to call it, a moment of clarity, I guess, where you realize that 22-year-old defensemen especially are not going to be at quite at the same level as 30-year-old guys who have been in the league forever. I mean, come on. Woodson says Habs about to score a touchdown on us. I don't think so. Woodson says Yuho gonna give us Valhalla 2.0 vibes. Y'all are soft. I don't know either. I haven't been impressed with his offense or defense this year. I don't know who that's in reference to. Indefinite Rage. When has our team looked this legit on paper post? We've been through the ringer in the last 13 years. Remember Zelina, Rutu, Tutu, Kalinin, Blandisi. We're in a good place finally. Yeah, I showed that roster, the lineup card from a game like 10 years ago. And while there were some decent players on it, a lot of them were kind of towards the end of their career. Like this team is much better than what we've seen for a very long time. And just embrace it, guys. This is a long season, an 82-game season, and we are only through game 11. It's going to be a long season if I'm going to have to deal with some of these mood swings and kind of outbursts from the fan base at large every time the team hits a little skid. They're not going to win every game. They're just not. As much as I would love to, they're not. There's going to be times where they lose 3 or 4 or 2 in a row, maybe even 3 in a row. Hopefully they end this thing at the 2 games and we see a big statement game from this Devils club in LA. Jason said I'd call Calgary and try to get Pickles here. That's another guy, another reunion people have been kind of talking about, I feel like, for the past at least couple weeks, bringing Blake Coleman back and rescuing him from the sinking ship that is the Calgary Flames. And obviously people have been talking about Kadri, but money would have to be freed up from somewhere. Woodson says if Luke isn't ready to replace Dougie, then why is he on power play 1? Well, he's not always on power play 1. There's multiple power play units. Woodson, I'm not sure if you're aware, Sheldon Keefe had talked about how they would be utilizing different units depending on what the penalty kill situation was from the other team. So they're tailoring the power play to what the penalty kill is on the other side. What that exactly means in depth, who knows? But we've seen Dougie out there on power play 1 as well. And I did say leading up to the season, even before Luke was signed, I did think it was Dougie's spot to lose. My favorite power play for the foreseeable future will always be the core 4 plus Dougie. That is my personal ideal power play. But we've been seeing kind of different mixtures depending on who we're playing. They're guys his age who look a lot better than Luke. Yeah, maybe, but what does that mean necessarily? I mean, he's 22 years old. He's going to get better. Snow, the ultimate doomer. You guys got excited. Robbie's bench toss. Cloud. John Woodson, a blizzard of negativity. Woodson, at least he won 8 games in a row, guys. Just like the year we won 13 straight. What a team. Fentanyl, Floyd, 22-year-old D-men are not the same as 22-year-old forwards. No, certainly not. Certainly not. And people just need to realize that. You know, he's been around for a few years, but he's 22 years old. Like, let that sink in. So, still multiple, probably at least a few seasons away from hitting his actual prime. John Woodson, I mean, Quinn was pretty good at 22. I mean, Luke is pretty good as well. I mean, I'm not going to say he's as good as Quinn was at the same age, but I mean, it's not, you make it sound like he's like terrible. He's a very good player. Anyone have anything productive, or is it just more dooming? Man, what a Halloween night, though, huh? The New Jersey Devils back in action tomorrow in LA. Saturday Night Live. Oh, man, that should be an interesting one. A 9 o'clock start, so it's a little bit earlier. A little bit earlier than the San Jose. McCarr and Slavin. Or just naming good defensemen. Schaefer. Woodson says it means Luke gets whatever he wants because Jack says so. I don't think that's the case, Woodson. I don't think that's the case at all. I mean, I don't know where you come up with that, but are you going to admit that the Luke contract was good in a couple of years from now, Woodson, when he's doing very good and worth more than the $9 million? Will you ever admit that the contract is a good one? Probably not. I don't think you have that in you. I hope one day that you do have it in you, but I don't know that you do. Traveling Devil comes with the Luke has 6 points and is a +6 so far. Yeah. Some people, I've talked about these types of people before. They have their viewpoints or their stances, and even with new information, they refuse to budge off them, and they will stick in that, whatever you want to call it, forever. And I think Woodson might be one of those people with certain things that he says. I don't think he has it in him to ever change his mind, even if he's hit over the head with overwhelming evidence to suggest that he's wrong about something specifically. Okay, so Woodson says he can't apologize for the Hughes brothers unless they raise a cup. Okay, so that's the so when if they raise a cup, then you'll concede. All right. Anyone else in closing here? Anyone have anything productive? I'm gonna go get some water real quick, and we'll start shutting this down. Any thoughts, comments, questions? Interesting day indeed, between the notes from practice with the lines that were thrown out there again in Connor Brown's absence. So they will look different likely if he does play in the game tomorrow. 2 years, $12 million, Jay Snow. $6 million a year. 2 more years for Markey after this season. So we signed for 2 more years. All right. Thoughts, comments, questions, suggestions, throw it out there in the chat. I'm curious. I do like the suggestions. Like, do you guys like the vlogs? Do you want to see more guests? Which one of you, like, I know some of you don't probably care about former players. Do some of you want to see former players? I'm very curious because everyone's kind of all over the place. So just, if you can, I would appreciate it. Shout out to everybody watching on X as well. It doesn't seem like anyone from X ever comments, but throw out in the comments while I run and grab this water real quick, what types of stuff you like, what you don't like, what you want to see more of. Always down for the ideas. I'm working on a bunch of things, and hopefully some of them come to fruition very soon. Be right back. Be right back. I just got some high quality H2O tonight, powered by Poland Spring. What is this? 100 ounces? Once upon a time in the summer, I was trying to drink about 100 ounces a day. When you really look at it, this is a shitload. I would do it with the water bottles. I would just buy cases, but this is kind of maybe I got to run the numbers and see what the pricing breaks down to. But maybe I'll just try to drink one of these a day and I'll just walk around with it like a psychopath. Cisco Kid says Devils will be all right. I certainly think so as well. But, there's a lot of people you're not going to convince of that after losing 2 games. Obviously I want the team to win because I love the team and live and die with the boys and want them to do well. But a 3rd loss in a row in LA tomorrow, I might have to turn my internet off. The comments on X will be ridiculous. I imagine a lot of the comments in here would be pretty ugly. But we'll see. We will see. Hopefully we're here celebrating tomorrow with victory drinks because you all know they taste so much better than loser beverages. And I'm missing the winning feeling. It was such a good ride we had. The 8-game heater was just absolutely beautiful. And then to go from the highest of highs to the lowest of lows, it's quite the emotional roller coaster. The 25-26 New Jersey Devils are taking us on a ride, and I'm here for the good or the bad. Shout out to all of you that are here as well. Good or bad, we will be here. Garrett Saunders says, just glad to say I saw the potential of these guys in the preseason. Happy to see where we go. Praying we are healthy when it matters. Yeah. Traveling former players and guests are good. Okay, I know you like that. LJ, former players, I watch every video you do with about them. I love the older players. Obviously, a lot of today's, whatever you want to call it, content, videos, articles, media, a lot of it is primarily driven by the current team. And like, obviously that makes sense, right? It's current, it's going on now. And a lot of people were not fans when some of these older guys played and all that. But I personally love talking to the Cup guys, as many of you know, like to live through the glory years of the Devils at the ages I was, to see that whole kind of dynasty was phenomenal. And for me, the pinnacle of, for me, my favorite things that I do on this channel, I obviously love doing the post-game lives and talking to all you guys. But my single biggest favorite thing that I've been able to do with all of this is talk to in depth with some of those guys that won cups and just hear the stories was the motivating factor for me to kind of get more involved with this channel, was the idea of being able to interview and talk to these guys. And it's been incredible. And I hope to do a lot more of it coming up. I do have a lot of stuff in the works that I have to just kind of get around to finalizing, but it is really fun. Anson, Ace will be the new Mr. Beast, making us compete in crazy challenges for Devils tickets and swag. It's funny you mentioned that. I thought about something like that. Obviously nowhere near the level of Mr. Beast. It'd be very low budget and nothing crazy. But I did think of like something along those lines. It is funny you mentioned that, Anson. I did think of like something that kind of merged Amazing Race concept with other things. So keep your eye on that. I might be doing something like that soon. Jason, I thought he wanted $5 million. Markey just didn't cut us any slack. Well, I think he wanted $5 million when he was hoping to probably get 4 or 5 years. I talked about this earlier in the video. You must have missed it, but I guess the compromise was the 2 years at $6 million, $12 million bucks. He probably wanted more years, and I'm glad the Devils kind of landed at 2. I'd rather pay him a little bit more for the 2 years than commit more years, again, because at some point you are going to need a transition, a transition from Markey and Allen to a different tandem at some point. Fentanyl says, if the game doesn't go our way tomorrow, going to need a hazmat suit to enter the chat. Yeah, I think so. You're not kidding, Floyd. Anthony, what's up? Keep it up. The show has the perfect balance between day-to-day developments in our history, dynasty era, and player interviews. Okay, I appreciate that. Justin Smith, the Luke Hughes contract is fine. Nothing wrong with it. Completely agree with you there, Justin. Jay Snow, they go super deep on X with the analytics. Oh, I know they do. And I do, listen, I don't hate all analytics. I do think they have a time and place and there is a use for them. I just think that people have become over-reliant on them. And in the end, there are so many different types of analytics out there. I do think that if you're talking about a specific player, you can then go and hunt down one of these analytics that will support your narrative, whether it's the guy's good or bad. You could go and find something that will either, again, support your narrative of, oh, this guy's good or this guy's not good. And you could find an analytics metric that will support your narrative because there's so many of them out there. And I did talk to an old timer. I won't reveal his name, but in the media room before the Devils Wild game, I did talk to a very in-depth, actually, very elderly gentleman, very respected in the sport. We discussed analytics in depth, along with another gentleman who was probably much younger than me, who was very pro analytics. And the older gentleman was kind of on the same wavelength as me, where he does like some of the analytics, but thinks it has gotten carried away and that it is overly relied upon and used in different situations. Jason says, Ace, on the meat on the bone scale, what is the Markey deal? Oof. Not a lot. Definitely not a lot, but it is only 2 years. So I will say, did Markey leave a lot of meat on the bone on this one? I'm going to say no. It would be low on the scale, but if he gets back to what I do think he is capable of playing as, then it could end up being more towards the middle of the scale, because a hot stretch and a big playoff could make his value on the open market more than what the $6 million is. With the new cap era, again, with goalies always in short supply and seemingly pretty high demand, he could have got more. Troy says, I like whatever keeps me invested in this team. Jay Snow, you seen the Marty interview? I did. Pretty good interview. I wish we saw Marty talk more in various different ways, but it's always interesting to hear from Marty. I always enjoy it. Stick Figs, ridiculous. The great Martin Brodeur won his last cup at 31. Markstrom has the kahunas on this deal at 35. Does he think he could do better? Stick Figs just joking around about some of our extreme fans. But yeah, Marty almost got it done for the Devils at 40 in that 2012 Cup Finals. It was crazy. What's going on, Tasha? The meat on the you guys all want the meat on the bone scale, eh? Let me see. All right, I got to give the people what they want. I just got to find it. I totally forgot about the... All right, so you guys are talking meat on the bone, huh? I guess it was silly of me to think that it wasn't a necessity. And here it is. We have the meat on the bone scale. Looking at here, I don't have the numbers thrown up because I didn't make a table for this, and it was short notice and I had to race home. But I will say, for this particular deal for Markey at 2 years, $6 million, I'm gonna say, and I'm not complaining about this, I think the meat on the bone scale for Markey here is probably a 4. It's probably a 4. Didn't leave a ton of meat on the bone. There's a little, and it's primarily because of term, I would say. He may have, the reports are he wanted like 5 years, which I think is crazy, given his age and everything. I mean, that's just, it seems super hopeful. But for $12 million total for 2 years, I'm going to call this a 4, because I do think he could have maybe either tried to push for a little more money on the 2 years or maybe that third year. But the Devils probably were pretty firm on the 2 years. So I'm going to say he didn't leave a ton of meat on the bone. He left a little bit. But if he gets back to the level that we all hope he does, then it would probably be more in the 2 or 3 world. But at the moment, as of the signing, I'm going to say it's a 4. Now, like everything else with new information, as we see how his season goes on, we could retroactively go back and reassess this. But as of right now, I'm going to call it a 4. If he plays lights out and we win a couple, even if we win 2 rounds, it would be, he would be looking, the scale would be readjusted. But in the moment, I'm going to say it's a 4. And I'm not mad at it. It's a short-term deal. He's at the end of his career. He likes it here. He wants to win a cup. I do think he is a win-now goalie. Hopefully he gets back to the level we saw last year when he was dominating. But I'm going to call this a 4 on the meat on the bone scale. And silly me for not having this, ready for you guys prior to. Stick Figs, I'm not mad at the deal. It just came at a very inopportune time with Markstrom's condition. Yeah, for sure. But they were working on this before that. It would have, yeah, right. It is just the worst timing for the people to go crazy because it is following up on a rough game for the whole team. Yeah, you got the Raccoons are going to starve. Jason says, I love the meat on the bone scale. Garrett, Markey makes it into form. Markey makes it into form he wasn't during last year's playoffs. He's huge for the team. I agree. Jay Snow, Marty himself admitted he wants more grit on this team. He just needs to convince Fitz. Again, Marty's old school, has seen cup champions, been close with hockey, involved with hockey for 40 years or so now, 50 year, whatever you want to call it. I've been telling you guys that forever. You need gritty players. And like Marty said, it's not just hitting and fighting. It's being tough on pucks, go into the dirty areas, winning battles on the wall, winning one-on-one battles. All of that is part of being more physical. It is part of the heavier, edgier, more violent mindset. And so when the people that still don't understand this or want to admit that it's prevalent in today's game, they will always dumb it down and be like, oh yeah, all these people want guys like McDermott and Reeves. And like, no, I want one of those guys, obviously. But when people say physicality, they don't mean just necessarily guys that fight in check. It's being a dog. Do they have that dog in them? Drive the net, go to the corners, win battles. That's all part of physicality. And Marty, I thought, did a very good job of explaining that in that clip. Everyone, yeah, Marky's a 4.5. Took a tiny, tiny bite out of the wing. 2 years is the perfect term. Tasha says, I mean, even if he gets to that level, no way it is a team-friendly discount or anything. Well, if he looks dominant, I would say it would age as team-friendly. Robbie's bench boss is open market. He could have gotten maybe gotten 6.5 or 7, so not that much savings. Yeah, which is why I gave it the rating I did. Stolar signed for 3.75. 4 years, $15 million for Stolars. Stick Figs, Ace wasn't on X while Lindy was around, so he probably doesn't know about the Brat Pack's job-o-meter. No, I don't. Tasha Stolars should have not signed in Toronto and came home to NJ. He was on my short list a couple of years ago when we weren't sure what was going on. I think he was one of the guys I had mentioned once upon a time that I thought could have been at least a 1B guy, if not the guy. Justin says, when Markstrom lifts the Stanley Cup, I want apologies. I'll be coming for heads. Yeah, Morgan, perfect. Physicality doesn't mean McDermott. It means Tkachuk. Exactly. Either Tkachuk. Pick a Tkachuk. The Tkachuk brothers are dogs, complete throwback players, and they're animals. They want to win, and it just exudes from them when they're on the ice. Winners. Those are the types of guys I've been talking about for years. Tasha says, I mean, I take Stolars over Markey just because of the variety of factors. Well, I mean, he's younger and stuff, obviously, but Markey is a win now guy. Win now. Jason, does Dawes walk now after this year? That'll be interesting. Again, depth is a great thing to have. They have it in goal. It already came into play this season. How that plays out, I am not sure. The Dawes thing is an interesting thing. It was very interesting before he was on waivers, and teams messed up. They could have claimed him, and no one did. And luckily for us, he was still available when we needed him. Tasha, did you discuss the practice lines from today? They sure gave me the Halloween scaries. I feel like Keith doesn't really mess with the lines too, so it was a jump scare. I talked about that earlier in the video, but he also told Amanda Stein not to look too much into it because of the fact that Connor Brown was not at practice, so that kind of throws everything off. But I did talk about that earlier in the video. Why can't Fitz ever wait? I'm just saying let the year play out. Because I think he just wanted it to be done with and not have to worry about it. Now he could focus on potentially improving the team near the deadline. Frank, tomorrow night, LA crowd sure to have one eye on the game and one eye on World Series Game 7. Oh, did that other game, the Kings won? Wow. I forgot that there was a baseball game tonight. You guys know how I feel about baseball, but I did watch the game the other night, the crazy extra innings game. I was at my buddy's house. Definitely probably the best baseball game I've ever seen. What did it go to, 18 innings? I mean, it was psychotic. Ohtani was crushing bombs. Crazy. Tasha says, pick a Kachuk. Keith, I remember when Ace got the chance to chat with him at Four Nations. It was super cool. Yeah, that was actually one of my... I love Keith Kachuk. I've loved him since I was a kid. Big part of that 1996 Team USA World Cup champion. And I've always liked his game and always liked watching him as a kid. He really was fun to watch. And I've talked to him multiple times in the past outside of, doing that video. And when I ran into him again, I really wanted to record something with him just because, he's such a great hockey mind and a fun guy to talk to. But if you guys haven't seen that video, I will drop that. I forgot about that one, but I just dropped that in the chat there. My brief little conversation with Keith Kachuk at Four Nations. Brandon, we will see. I would have thrown that $6 million into a forward 10 of 10 times. I get that. I get it. If Markey has a bad year, though, I'm just saying hypothetically the deal's going to look bad. Of course, but that's with anybody. You're always taking the risk. I understand why people complain and whatever, but on the flip side, hopefully that doesn't happen and he plays well and it looks good. But yeah, if he plays bad, it's going to be a bad deal. I mean, that's pretty much understood. Justin says Marty is God when he speaks, you listen. Jace, no, I don't think our owners care about hockey. I mean, I think they care. I think they want to win to some extent and they care about making money. Hopefully more sports owners see that, that winning is also profitable, whether it's tickets or merchandise, people feeling good. Just winning helps spending. Jason says they're more interested in the Commanders in the new stadium. Maybe, but that doesn't mean that we can't still win despite that, even if that is true, which again, I have no idea. Tasha, don't they have 4 other teams? Either way, all the players say ownership's big on winning, so who knows? Yeah, I mean, they have all the resources. They say the right things. Hopefully that's the reality, that they do want to have winning teams and continue to have profitable franchises. I want this team to win more than anything. Jay Snow, we have a lot of guys to re-sign next year too. Yeah, for sure. They're building a new stadium. Are you talking about for the Commanders? Tasha, not going to lie, I want them to stay in Newark because it's only 20 minutes away from me. It's fairly close to me as well, although I would love for the team not to play there, if I'm being honest. I don't like it at all because the traffic, and obviously the biggest thing to me is, as many of you know, is the tailgating. I would love it if one day the Devils ever were in a situation where there was a huge parking lot with tailgating. Would be phenomenal. Tasha says, not Jersey City. The traffic is brutal. Jungle Static. It's different, though, when it comes to taking a risk. We didn't have to take this risk. Our hand wasn't forced. The odds are what they are. That's all fair. That's all fair. But let's just say in a world we didn't have Markey, if Allen got hurt, I think Dawes could fill in. But a lot of people were nervous about Dawes. Do you want to be in that position? And I think that's where the organization was at. If we have 2 veterans and one goes down, we still have Dawes. But if you now only have 1 veteran and say it was Markey and Dawes, if Markey goes down, are you comfortable with Dawes being the guy? And it seems like the organization wants to have those veterans in place for that reason. They were going to move to Hoboken. Yeah, I remember all the rumors. Decided on Newark. I don't know why. I think it was a bunch of politics and money and stuff that got involved. It probably would have been a disaster with traffic if they went to Hoboken, but it certainly would have been interesting. Tasha's not the greatest city and not appealing to road players. Jay Snow, move back to the Meadowlands. I would love that. My dream is that they build a new arena on the old grounds, or just completely revamp the existing arena and move back there. I don't think it'll ever happen, but man, I would love to see it. Frank, used to chat with Danica often. We had the restaurant in Caldwell, Mezzanote. Shout out to Mezzanote. Love that place. Also talked to several of the boys who hung out at the Meadowbrook in Cedar Grove back in the day. Good times. A whole different world. What a time to be alive, though. During the heyday of the New Jersey Devils. What an absolutely beautiful time of life. All right, it's late. Wow. It's super late, guys. Term is fine, but it kind of handcuffs a non-rental pickup at the deadline. Maybe, maybe not. I'd have to look at what other money's getting freed up after this season, or maybe Fitz has some of these things kind of already planned out in terms of money moving out. Brandon, I think injuries are haunting Fitz decisions. Probably wants to keep all three goalies just in case both Allen and Markstrom get hurt. Again, with the way this team gets hurt, yeah, it's never enough. The depth is never enough, and you could always use another guy. The Meadowlands was awesome, Tasha. Was a truly special place. Jason, what's wrong with Brown? I know I'm late here. Something, he must have got nicked up a little bit in that past game. We don't really know, and he's going to be, I guess, probably a game-time decision for tomorrow. He wasn't at practice today, and as a result, we saw some interesting line combinations. But Keefe also said don't look too much into it because Connor Brown's not here. Hopefully he's good to go for tomorrow. Jungle Static, Ace, I hear you, but why could we not wait until at least halfway through the season? You were talking about next season. We can wait to make sure he comes back into form and sign him later. You can, but I do think there's some deals like this where, I get that. And I probably would have liked to see it too. But I feel like as a team, as an organization, they are committed to him through the ups and downs of whatever we may see coming up. And they believe he's the guy and they want him here. And they just wanted to get it over with. I'm sure it was important to Markstrom to have his future solidified. And like I said earlier, it may have been kind of weighing on his mind a little bit and maybe making him a little tense. That's just pure speculation, and I don't know. But hopefully he's a little looser with this getting done, and hopefully he plays much better. Meadowlands was the best. Another late one tomorrow, absolutely. Hopefully we're celebrating a big win. Tasha, I have a feeling there's going to be a big trade at the deadline if it be Tuck or Robertson. I could totally see that happening. I could totally see one of them getting moved at the deadline. Would love to be in on one of them, but I don't know how realistic that is either. Again, given cap space and all of these things. But hopefully we start to see the organization get a little more aggressive with some of these moves because the window is wide open, and I think they are now on board with that thought that this is a win now team. The window is wide open, and it's time to maybe use some of those assets towards win now pieces. Would love to see it. Yeah, no Brownie. Ridiculous. Fentanyl fled the 95 parking lot cup celebration. Can never beat the cup celebrations in the parking lot. Jason, no, I just want to see another cup. I was so young. So do I. I want to see one so bad. It's long overdue. It is completely long overdue. All right, guys, I think that's it. What a day. Connor Brown potentially injured. Markstrom re-signed 2 years, $6 million a year, $12 million. And hopefully this team snaps out of this little funk. Oh, I will do a quick little show and tell just because the item's right near me. For those of you that care about this stuff. Hold on, let me get a sip of water. I still have a pile of stuff that I was looking to maybe work into the set, but I'm probably done for now. Oh, the reflection. What a time to be a Devils fan. If you guys, this was when the Devils had two of the greatest players of all time on the team simultaneously. This is a 16 by 20 photo signed by two of my all-time favorites, the great Jaromir Jagr and obviously the great Martin Brodeur. This is signed by both of those gangsters. What a time to be alive. Marty and Jagr, are you kidding me, guys? Holy smokes. If you weren't a Devils fan during this era, granted the teams weren't the best, to see these dudes 68 and 30, absolute legends. And it made watching a team that wasn't so great, like I said, very entertaining on some nights because I knew I was watching history. What a treat for Jaromir Jagr to wear that red and black Devils sweater. But yeah, guys, I have so much crap. I thought about doing a quick video recently of just rifling through a bunch of stuff. If you guys are interested in that, maybe I'll do it. I've been going through so much stuff here. It's wild. And the photos are, I wish I had a better setup so I could show more stuff in the backdrop. But wow, Yager is a beast. Yager is a big boy and very tough on the puck. What do they have him listed as? I'm pretty sure he's like 6'3", 6'4". They list him at 6'2". He's listed on NHL at 6'6". Oh no, on NHL.com he's listed at 6'3", 230. An absolute physical force. You could not budge that man off the puck. Watching Yager on the wall with the puck and just dropping his shoulder and dragging people is crazy. Let me see. Maybe I'll do one more photo. There's so much stuff in the studio right now. I was looking at a bunch of stuff. I was going to try to change some stuff up, but I'm lazy. But hold on, let me see what other photos I got in this pile. Bear with me 1 second. We got the Marty Yager. This is another one for you old-time fans. Sheesh. Talk about heat, huh? Doc and Chico, what's up? The Doc and Chico, the greatest tandem in the booth. The lights, the reflective lights are hard to, but this is signed by, oh yeah, see, I get the reflection. I got to do the, signed by Doc and Chico. Two of the best to ever do it. Love these guys. What a childhood. What a childhood. All right. All right, that's it for now. Oh, guys. All right. So hopefully we're back here celebrating tomorrow. My closing thoughts, I'm kind of all over the place here. But this team is going to be okay. Right? In respect, I still have my old Parisi jersey signed by Doc and Chico. Very nice. I think they're going to be okay. I think they are much closer to the team we saw during the 8-game heater than the team we saw the past 2 games. And again, not to make excuses, but we have 3 very young kids on defense right now with Brett Pesce down. You cannot undersell his importance and significance to the club. He's absolutely massive. We're without him right now with already missing Kovacevic, and we got 3 young kids on the blue line, and hopefully they hold it down because it's a big loss. It is a big loss, and they just got to persevere. Need a big one in LA tomorrow. Hopefully the freshly extended Jacob Markstrom has a gem of an outing. I would love to see just like a vintage throwback Marky performance where he just stands on his head and dominates, and everybody deposits their apologies. And again, it's obviously only 1 game. But given what we've seen the last couple games, I know a lot of people need a little bit of a boost, a morale boost. And I think a Marky dominant performance might help that department because people are, pretty down right now. Yeah, Ride and respect. Winning cures all. And hopefully we see it tomorrow. All right, that's it, guys. Back tomorrow. Hoping for a big bounce back performance from this Devils club, and hopefully somehow they can win the next 2 and salvage the road trip and go 2-2 before coming back to the Rock for a 3-game homestand. That would be phenomenal. But that's it, folks. Hit the thumbs up on your way out. Always got things in the works. Appreciate all of you. Appreciate the continued support, but hit that thumbs up for sure on the way out. Check out some of the other videos. And the season's still young. I got a lot of cool things in the works, and hopefully some of it will be rolling out soon. Thank you all for watching. I love you all. Like, comment, subscribe, and all that jazz. Until next time, friends, let's go Devils.